#1 real estate and mortgage show in Corona, California. My name's Ted Hicks, along with my co-host, Craig Yace.
Hello.
Craig, now we have no Scott Benson today. Scott is traveling, so you and I have to man the boat ourselves.
I think we can do it.
I know we can do it. And speaking of doing it, Craig, do you see what I'm wearing?
Yes.
Now, it's a hat.
With a V on it.
Well, yeah, it's the Vegas Golden Knights.
Of course.
Well, you expect nothing less. The Vegas Golden Knights took down the Stanley Cup in 6 years of a franchise existence. Took us 5 games. It's like I play. But congrats to the Golden Knights. Super stoked. Vegas is going nuts over it. Quickly becoming the sports capital of the world. Dean, I called you Dean. Craig. Dean's my other business partner. So
you could have morphed that into dude.
Dean, dude, yeah.
I meant dude, but
there's 2 guys. There's a couple of guys that wear hats. You got the guys that are bald that always wears a hat, right?
Yeah.
And then my wife likes me to wear it like this because then now I look younger. And then you get the guys that have their car and they go drive with their cap on with their car, the convertible.
That's
right.
True.
And then they wear something like this, or guys that go to business meetings wearing a hat, which I can't stand.
Oh wow, yeah, I haven't noticed.
You've seen those guys? Come on, look.
I have. I haven't noticed.
They are, and they stand out like dummies. They don't realize it, but I'm neither. I'm bald and I'm proud, and I don't care.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, you got a great family, so who cares about your head?
I don't, and that's a great way to live life. If you stop caring about what other people think, because it really doesn't matter.
Okay, so there was a quote. Who was it? I can't remember who it was. Oh, it was Russell Brand, believe it or not. He
a great podcast, by the way.
Yeah, he's a little crazy sometimes.
Yep.
His quote, I'm going to botch it, but it was something like, and it's on my Facebook if you want to scroll through.
I don't.
Of course not. It was basically, I can't whatever you think about me, I can't control, and it's none of my business. That's the point of it. Your thoughts about me are none of my business. So who cares what people think, right?
Well, it doesn't really change anything. That's the point. People get all caught up on things like that, and it's like, who cares? I mean, the world's going to spin. In fact, whether we like it or not, you and I one day will be gone.
Yep.
And the world keeps spinning.
Sooner rather than later. Oh, hold on 1 second.
Yes.
Because it looks like I'm not plugged in. Hold on.
No problem.
Okay. I can keep talking though.
No, well, guys, I was going to talk to you about we houses with carpet and the challenges of having kids and carpet. I don't know if you've dealt with that, but sometimes you get these tough stains. Guys, when you get those tough stains, I want you to call Corey's Carpet Care. Corey's Carpet Care, our latest sponsor. If you get those tough, I'm kidding. I appreciate that. We're making lemonade out of lemons, Craig. So today's show, I want to dive in and take a step back and really educate the potential buyers, which are borrowers, on the nuts and bolts of buying a house. Let's take a first-time buyer. And, stuff I find when you do something every day, you kind of take it for granted and it becomes secondhand to you. But we forget that you don't know what you don't know. I still remember my first time buying a house, 2002, 2001. And I remember driving to look at apartments. And this was, I was living in Sacramento at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never seen a development off to the right-hand side of us. And I've never seen these houses. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. There's a develop over there. And I went to this apartment complex. And I remember I got a job in Stockton, California, and I needed to be within a certain distance. We were looking kind of Elk Grove, just south of Sacramento.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I know.
And saw this apartment, went and looked at it, and the rent was called $2,000.
Right.
And I said, let's go look at these houses over here. I've never been. Let's go look at them. It turned out that for the same amount of money as rent, I could get a house. And I said, well, I just started. I just graduated. I need time to get the down payment. They let me make payments to build up the down payment before we closed.
Wow.
And so I said, here's my new job. I had an offer from Eli Lilly.
So it's kind of like
Kind of like what?
I was just going to say it's
Oh,
kind of like what is it when you buy a watch, but
yeah, like a lease to own, like put
uh,
on like a down, like
a
a
layaway, like a layaway.
layaway. Yeah, put the
Yeah,
house on layaway. So they were building it actually. They were building, and I just got my job. I showed them my letter, my offer letter, my salary, and as long as I made the payment out of my check every month, I was able to put my down payment. So by the time the house was built, we were able to close with the down payment.
that's
And
awesome.
but I had no idea that was even an option if I didn't just walk through those doors.
Right.
So I'm
Right.
inviting the people to watch this, to walk through the doors of opportunity and call Craig and I, or watch the show today and learn how to buy a house. So Craig, you're our real estate expert. Let's talk about a new home buyer comes to you. What's a discussion you're going to have with them to start?
Well, first, I'm going to want to know what they know or think about the market, and real estate in general. I'm also going to reinforce the value of owning a home because,
Yep.
there's what, 3 or 4 different ways to gain equity. And so I want to talk about those because a lot of people don't know
Yeah.
about it, don't think through it, right?
Yep.
People don't know. This is a interesting thing. About every 10 years or so, housing prices double.
Yep.
One exception, 2008, that was a crazy, crazy time. But, and I've done this with my aunt and uncle's house. We could
Yep.
go back through history, 120, 125 years of history, and plot that out, and it actually works out every time.
You're absolutely correct. I mean, the house that I bought in 2002, I think I bought it for 200. I think out the door we're like 280, 240 with a pool, and it's easily worth 800, 900 now, if around there.
Wow. Yeah.
And that would be 20 years, so it would have more than doubled. 10 years and doubled again.
Oftentimes more than doubles. That's
Yeah.
true. And so, if you think prices are too expensive now, and we've talked about this with my aunt and uncle when they bought their house back in 69 or whatever it was, and they paid $17,500. I had to remember.
Yeah.
In Huntington Beach.
Wow.
They're like a mile and a half from the
Yeah.
beach.
What's that worth? $2 million now?
No, but it's
At least
we just sold it for a little over 8, and
okay.
the people remodeled it.
But they bought it for 20 grand.
Something around there.
75. I mean,
it's so funny. People think that a remodel is so much more than it actually is. I bring people into homes, first-time buyers and seasoned buyers, and they're like, "Oh man, this would take $80,000 to fix." I'm like, "No, 22."
Craig, it's funny you mention that because I was a contractor, and so I've seen houses stud down, right? I know what it takes to build a house actually from the ground up, and you don't realize. Again, it's intimidating. If you've never seen what's behind the sheetrock, you don't know what you're dealing with.
Right.
And I mean, I have plenty of times I've dug into these projects not knowing what I was going to do and just open a wall. It's okay, or I got to deal with that, right. But that's how you learn things. You got to try. So speaking of learning, going back to first-time buyers. So you educate them on the whys, the buy a house, the equity, the value that you get in it. What's next?
So again, I want them to understand the value. After that, we're going to try and figure out what's the best financing for them. So if they have cash, wonderful. Most of the time they don't.
Yep.
If they need financing, great. How much down payment do you have? And here's the funny thing. I've been doing this 21 years. There are maybe 3 people I've known a complete picture of their financing. I take the ball and I pass it to the lender, right? So, which is great for, people who know me, I get a lot of repeat and referral business, people from church, that kind of thing.
Sure.
And the great thing is I don't need to know your personal details, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to let somebody else look into that.
You bring up an interesting point.
Uh-huh.
So many times people are weird about their friends knowing their finances.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, so you'd rather go to a complete stranger that doesn't care about you as a person,
right?
and give them the world. You can open up your world to them rather than a friend that you know and trust and like or love,
Right.
that truly has your best interest in heart. It's so interesting how we get with we're weird like that, right?
Yeah. And that person, that friend might look at your finances and say, "Well, maybe this isn't the best way to go for you." Right.
Yeah.
This might put you in a bind, in a couple of through the course of a couple of years. Or they might say, wait a minute, if houses double every 10 years or so,
Mm-hmm.
why are you just going for a $500,000 house when you could go for a $600,000 house? Because you can easily afford it. You'll get a much better home and you'll make $200,000 more on the back end, right?
Well, the other side of it is too. I think we're all worried about, oh, what are they going to think about me? We're all prideful, you
Sure.
know. And I got to tell you, I don't care. What I look at does the number pencil to qualify you for the loan. That's all I care about. I don't care if you made $10 million, $100,000. Is there enough there to get a debt to income ratio that's going to qualify you? That's all I care about. I really, honestly, I've done both. I've done multi-million-dollar homes. I've done, condos. It doesn't matter to me. I just care about qualifying you for the loan. Does it pencil? Friend or not? I mean, if I just know you from you referring somebody over to me or from somebody's close friend, I don't care. I just want it to work for you. And then, of course, Craig, I'm going to look at their overall situation and give them guidance on how to best manage their asset, right?
Or even, if it doesn't pencil, is there a way to make it pencil without
Correct.
hurting them?
Correct.
Like, do we do a CHDAP loan? Like I said, I think it was last week, Riverside has a program where they're giving up to $100,000 to use towards your down payment.
Insane.
I mean, why wouldn't you why wouldn't you step into home ownership when you've got a 20% boost, right?
And then so back to my side of the equation. When I'm looking at a first home buyer, actually there's benefits to that because the creditors will give you incentives being a first home buyer than somebody that's not, which is kind of weird to me. And by the way, being a first home buyer means you haven't owned a home in the last 3 years. So that home I bought in 2001, let's say I moved out of it in 2010 and I've been renting for, 10 years. Now I qualify as a first home buyer again. So it's not little to the word. It's just a definition they use. Now, I'm going to look at your work history. Typically, we need 2 years. What if you're a college student? I'm going to look at your education and see if that matches what you are now doing as a job. Do we have a proof of employment? Do I have an employment letter? Can I verify it? What am I getting from the employer? Are you self-employed? And how long have you had your business? Because then I can look at your bank statements. I can look at your P&L. I can do all sorts of things, but I need to have something to substantiate your income, including, by the way, maybe you have a really rich stock portfolio and you don't have income. I can use that as your income. I can do what's called asset depletion. Depending on the lender, I can divide it as low as 60 months to determine what your monthly income would be to offset that debt to income ratio. And for those who don't know what debt to income ratio is, I'm looking at the debt you have versus the income. And we're seeing where it comes in if you divide the two as far as a ratio to determine if you qualify. Usually it has to be below 50%, ideally below 43%. And that's including your HOA payment, your tax, your insurance, the whole ball of wax.
Right.
So there's that. And now look at your FICO score. People are qualifying in the 500s, Craig. I mean, your rate's going to be worse. Your down payment's going to be worse. But you're looking at all the way down to the 500s with some of these FHA loans. Ideally, we want to see, 680, 700. We start getting into more preferential, lending guidelines, if you will. But work history, FICO, source of down payment. We can use gift funds. Sometimes there's sometimes a cap on that. Reserves, how much money you have in a bank to cover the payment. They're going to want to see a set amount of reserves. We're going to look at your last 2 months bank statements, your last 2 check stubs, and your last 2 W-2s.
So I had somebody, okay, so let me just point out that, I do a little of the upfront and then pass the ball to you, and that's what you do, right?
Yep.
You spit out a whole lot of things, but the simplified version of that is credit, collateral, capacity, right?
The 3 C's of lending.
The 3 C's of lending. So if you can not fog a mirror, that was 06, 07. But if you can pass the smell test on the 3 C's,
yeah,
then we just got to figure out what price range it is. And by the way, you know, a lot of people are like, whoa, that payment's way too high for me. I get that I qualify here, but I really want a payment down here. And you could reverse engineer that and say, well,
100%.
that's what this price is, right?
Yeah.
So here's the price. Now I'll take that ball and run with it. And then what we're doing is, and this is key actually, especially for people who are just getting started looking at homes for themselves. They haven't even talked to a realtor yet. You know, Zillow, all these websites, my website, the actual MLS, they allow you to put in a ton of parameters.
Mm-hmm.
I want a house with a 10,000 square foot lot or bigger. It's got to be 3,200 square feet or more. It's got to have this price. It's got to have a view. It's got to have a pool. You could put 2.5 bathrooms or more, and you could put all these things in. But the more parameters you put on, the tighter you make that search. And here's the key, and the reason why. I mean, in a perfect world, those parameters would help you find the perfect house. But here's the world we live in. The realtor who has that listing, who's representing the seller, puts the information in. Sometimes they get the wrong information. Sometimes they don't put enough information. So as you're starting to niche down, and this is exactly what I want, you're going to miss the home that might actually work for you best because the realtor didn't put the right information in. So my key, my coaching, and what I do personally for my clients, and tell them, hey, look, I'm going to put in the minimal amount of parameters. Yeah. You want a 3 or more bedroom, or 4 or more. I recommend 4 because you've got a greater audience to sell to. But whatever it is that suits your needs. So we're going to 3 or more. Definitely want 2 or more bathrooms because you're going to get a home built in the 80s or greater, and it's just going to be a little bit better floor plan, all that kind of stuff. And price and area, that's it. And then we're going to visually look at these homes. Oh, that yard's way too small. That floor plan doesn't work. That layout doesn't work. Then you can start separating the things. And, we've joked about AI, but AI's made its way into the MLS now. And as you're set up as a client of mine, you could start clicking the thumbs down emoji. Mm-hmm. And the AI is going to try and figure out, hey, what is it about this house that they don't like, and not serve homes up to you anymore. You click heart, it says, oh, what is it that they do like? And I'm going to serve more of those homes, even if it's not exactly within these parameters.
Yeah, no, 100%. Now, you bring up an interesting point, though, about people searching Zillow versus using a realtor. Mm-hmm. I use all those tools. I use Trulia, Zillow, and I use it to get an idea of what I'm looking for. But here's the big challenge with those. A few things. Number one, they're not updated quite as fast as, say, like the MLS.
Right.
Number two, and I'm going to give you a perfect example. When I was looking to go to Boca Raton, Boca Raton is heavy on these golf club communities that you have to buy a membership to live in these communities. And these memberships are 100,000, 200,000 on up. And you cannot finance these. So I would find a lot of houses that I liked, and you have to really dig in those agent remarks on Zillow. Not all the time was it there. So I would send it over to my agent. He would call me back. Hey, Ted, this is a great house. The membership is 100,000 and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't got time for that. I don't got money for that. It's not going to work. And if I had a way to know that, but the point is, I need a professional that's going to understand that, and that's going to know to provide me houses that don't have or do have a membership.
Right.
But it's depending on the agent making the listing also. But then that dives down into, and then the lists are automated, but it also dives down into my realtor knowing his community and knowing that, hey, so-and-so golf club or so-and-so community is a gated membership community.
Right.
I mean,
Same thing for us
yeah,
out here, or a similar thing is those Melrose that we've talked about,
yeah,
or the community facility district, the CFDs. Anyway, they're an added tax on top of your base tax rate.
yeah,
And you know what? If you're on the edge, right? If we're like, your max is 600,000, max, like you can't go
yeah.
above that. And we find a home that's got $300 more per month
Good
in
job.
additional taxes.
Yeah,
Don't even look at that home. Don't get excited about it.
yeah, 100%.
Speaking of excitement, that's another thing that I share with buyers. Don't love your home until after you've moved in.
You can't, yeah, you can't get
Like,
emotional about it. You cannot get
yeah,
emotional about it.
exactly. Like
Um,
it. Yes, this could work for us. This could be a great house for us. But you know what? That way you're, like you said, not emotionally tied. Something weird comes up, you can walk away and be okay.
yeah, and that happens. You get too caught up in these things and you start chasing stuff.
Right.
You can't chase things in life, right? It's gonna work itself out, but you can't chase it.
And
Um,
a good realtor, sorry, sounds like I'm tooting my own horn, but
well,
they're not going to want you to get emotionally attached. They're going to want you to yes, like it, but also be um, strategic about making this move. One of the
yeah,
big things that I share with my clients is, you've heard location, right?
a
And
million times.
most people think, well, okay, Newport Coast, that's what that means. Yes, of course, that's what that means. But it also means, look, are you in a cul-de-sac? People love cul-de-sacs.
Yeah,
Do you have a busy street behind that
yeah. You
house?
buy a are
People
you
hate
are
busy
you are you up next to a train track, or you buy a liquor store,
train tracks,
or you buy a school?
power lines.
Yeah,
Yep, all those things. So a good realtor is going to say, hey, I know I like this house too. It's a great home. It's a great neighborhood. I want you to think about the future sale. Okay. I don't want you to think about living here. In fact, here's a funny story. I talked to my father-in-law. I don't know if I told the story before. He was buying a house, and it was in a great neighborhood, wonderful area in Riverside. There was a huge, it's like 6-lane, huge street next to him. Might as well be a freeway. And then a feeder street that came into the neighborhood.
yep.
And he was 3 houses from the corner from that
Main Street.
intersection.
Yep.
Lots of traffic noise. Now we get outside, block wall, concrete everywhere, metal patio cover, stucco. I go, look, Simon, this is a very, very loud backyard. You've got these 2 streets here. He says, oh, I don't mind. I said, no, I know, because you have a hearing aid and you can turn it down. But when you go to sell the house, it could make
Yeah.
it could be the big difference between selling fast or slow, or having to take a cut on your pricing. Long story short, he did buy that house, and when he sold it, he ended up moving out into a house that suited them better. It was a little bit closer to us, which was great. But when he put a tenant in that home, and she said, the one thing I hate about this house is that backyard. I love spending time in the backyard. That's so noisy. Now, she ended up buying the house from him, but only because she didn't want to move.
Yeah.
She already had her stuff there. So anyway, the point being, those are all the things that I really try and help somebody consider, think through,
Yeah.
make sure it's a good decision for them, not for this purchase, but for the future sale.
And from our side, the other thing we do, I think it's important to understand the difference between pre-qualification and pre-approval.
Mm-hmm.
Pre-qualified means nothing.
Absolutely.
You're calling me and saying, I make this, my credit score is this, I think it's this, and okay, you're pre-qualified.
Right.
That's what that means. Here's your letter.
Yeah.
Pre-approval, now there's a difference between being a broker and a banker. So I used to work with a direct lender. So what that meant is he had a wholesale line that he would fund the loan. So he'd fund the loan himself, and then he wholesales them right back and sells it to the same lender I'm qualifying with. Okay.
Right.
So I could write a pre-approval letter because technically I was the bank. Now where I'm at now, I work with a broker. We strictly broker the loans and sell them to the lender. Well, I'm going to the same lenders. It's the same conversation, same process, with the exception of that middleman step where we would fund the loan and then sell it right back 5 days later. Okay. But I cannot write pre-approval letters until I get approval from the lender that I'm actually working with.
Mm.
And so the way we do that is if it's a conforming loan, these conforming loan guidelines, everybody can research Fannie and Freddie, right? Those are the conforming loan guidelines. And we run them through a system called AUS. And it doesn't matter if you work with me or some other lender, we all do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
If we get approved eligible, that means we have a conforming loan AUS approval that says, hey, based on what you ran in here, that we give you an approval that you can get this loan. Sometimes go ahead.
I was going to say not to interrupt, but I totally meant to interrupt you. And you're doing that not based on what they say on the phone.
Correct.
You're doing that based on what you see as their actual financial.
Yeah, they're giving me the documentation. It takes a little bit longer, but once we get that and I get that approval, now I can actually submit to the lender and get into underwriting.
Right.
But that's more of a concrete way. So if you're selling a home or you're going to go buy, get pre-approved first, know your buying power. And that actually brings us back to that expectation where you're at with emotions. Know your buying power before you go start shopping.
Right.
It may be better than you expect, it may be worse, but either way, you have to know. And that helps Craig do his job because Craig's not going to put you in front of something that doesn't work.
Right. Well, I'm not even going to work with somebody like that. I might show him a couple of houses just as a courtesy.
Yeah.
But if we don't have that pre-approval, then there's no sense in me showing them homes. And any good listing agent or seller's agent wouldn't even consider an offer. And again, we've got multiple offer situations on almost.
You can't even sometimes go show a house. They're going to want to see a pre-approval first before you even go show it.
Yep.
I get calls from friends. Hey, I got some friends that want to come in town. They want to look at houses. I'm okay. Well, we need to pre-approve them because I'm not going to call one of my realtors and waste their time if you're not even pre-approved for a loan or you don't even know what that process is, or I can even say, yeah, you can get a loan.
Right.
Our time's valuable. A lot of times we're getting paid from the bank or you're getting paid from the transaction. So we're in a way, we're working free for our clients.
Mm-hmm.
We get paid. Money comes from somewhere. But it's not necessarily them writing a check out of their pocket. It depends. I can get paid from them, and there's ways to do that too. But Point is, value people's time, value what they do. Don't take advantage of it. We're happy to set up different searches and different things for you, but let's go through the process so we can do our job effectively and in fairness to us, not waste our time.
And the work that we do, to kind of put a pinpoint on what you were just saying, it's on a hope. So you live in Vegas.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not going to go and gamble my time where I could actually help somebody who's gotten pre-approved.
Yeah.
Right. And I can get somebody who is an 80 or 90% certainty of me being able to provide for my family and them getting into a home.
Correct.
Versus, well, it sounds like you should be able to get a house. I'm not going to take that gamble. Again, I might spend, 40 minutes or an hour showing a couple of houses, but I'm not going to spend weekend after weekend away from my family.
Well, that's what for hope. Yeah. Cause your time, you don't know when your next deal is going to close. You don't know when your next lead's coming in. That's the challenge that we face in this business. So guys, if you think about getting a real estate mortgage, you're almost as good as your last deal. The next deal, you don't know when's coming. So it's important to try to build a pipeline. And Craig, you've been doing it for 20 years, so you get repeat customers. But I mean, still, can be a scary proposition to be in this business. So we appreciate loyalty, commitment. If we're giving you and sacrificing our time, then see through that you're going to do this with us. Value that. Realize that Craig has a family, I have a family, and that we're putting out our time for you, and we're going to work as hard as we need to. We will sacrifice and make, whatever we need to do to get the job done for you. But in turn, we ask that you are loyal to us and see the deal through.
And fortunately, and you're probably the same way, I attract loyal people for the most part anyway. And I repel people who are not loyal. I had a friend who, she was doing an open house. Guy comes in, he says, "Hey, can you show me these couple of houses?" She goes, "Oh, sure." And somehow they got to the question of, "Are you working with any other realtor?" And he said, "Well, yeah, I've got 6 realtors looking for homes for me." And she's like, "Well, why would I show you this house?"
Yeah.
"Well, you could get paid." "Yeah, but I really could not. I mean, there's 6 chances that I won't get paid.
Yeah.
There's 6 chances I won't be able to provide for my family, and this will be a waste of time." So she was strong enough in that position to say, "Go talk to one of the other agents."
Yeah.
Like, I mean, or commit to me. If you're going to commit to me, I'll commit to you.
Well,
But
the other frustrating thing, Craig, and we'll wrap the show up with this
good. This
is
is a
no,
session.
it's been educational though. I think this is truly, look, we appeal to other professionals like us, and we also appeal to, borrowers and buyers or
Yeah.
sellers. So that is one, I would say, know your worth. Like we talk about what we make. I never go to a realtor. If you tell me your listing is 6%, it's because I'm going to get 6% worth of work or more. I mean, far too often, so-and-so's going to do it for 5%. But yeah, what does that mean though?
Right.
What does that mean? What do they, if they're making less, then are they putting less resources into this? Because Craig's going to list this house, and if it doesn't sell, he's out a lot of money out of his own pocket. You're not giving him a escrow account to draw from.
Right.
And so
I've got $1,000 layout in the first week.
Yeah.
Whether I sell that house or not costs
Correct.
me $1,000, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's in photos and advertising and
correct. And that's not even your time.
Right.
That's just hard expenses that are coming out of your pocket.
Right.
So I think people got to realize, like, look, you have 20 years of knowledge and experience that come into this.
Yeah.
That's worth that extra 0.5%. That's worth that extra one. It's worth more, really. But I mean, don't nickel and dime a guy on a listing. And same thing with my fees. I don't like when realtors say, "Oh, I need you to give my borrowers, you got to give them 1.5." I'm like, how am I going to provide for my family? What about all the tools that I bring to the table that give you these in-depth analysis that the other guy's not giving to you? We really put effort into educating and giving you, above level knowledge that you're not going to get from anybody else. And honestly, I already discount it.
Yeah.
But don't ask me to discount it even more. Find value in what we're doing. I mean, we have a borrower that Scott has been working with for almost 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And we finally find a house and we get the pre-approval, get him in, and he starts complaining about the fees.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what about the tens of hundreds of hours that we've put into this already?
Right.
You're answering the call on the weekend. So,
yep.
Welcome to the Real Estate Mortgage Insiders Bitch Fest. We're not, though. We're educating, and we're just sharing. Look, we're professionals, but we put a lot of money, energy. I mean, the tools that I'm using to do the show right now, this costs money. The tools that we use to process the loan cost us money. Nobody's paying for that. We're paying for it.
And the way to stay in contact with people costs money. It's not, it's not just my cell phone. And I hope I remember you because I've got a lot of things coming in. But, and to your point, by the way, I have been studying, learning, I guess it's the same thing. I've been bettering myself for over 20 years to be the best agent for you today.
Yeah, exactly. Doesn't come overnight.
It does not.
Does not come overnight. Okay, guys, thanks for watching. Craig, as always, it's a pleasure. For the Real Estate Mortgage Insiders, Ted Hicks, he's Craig Yace. We'll see you next week. Thank you.
You guys.